Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today at this live broadcast from Startup Nation Central offices in Tel Aviv. This is the official launch of the Supply Chain Logistics Map, and we're happy to have you with us here today. With me, our co-host, Ophir Bronheim, Global Innovation Manager at DSV Global Transport and Logistics. Ophir, welcome. Just a few words about DSV, our partner in this whole project from the beginning till now, just for those that are not familiar with DSV.
Okay, thank you, Michal. First of all, thank you for hosting us here. It's my pleasure. So DSV is a Danish company, the third biggest logistics company in the world. We are operating in more than 90 countries with over 17,000 employees globally, with three main divisions. The first one is the Air and Sea. The second one is the Solutions, which is the warehouses and the road. Here in Israel, we have a setup of 12 branches with over 700 employees. So in the last, let's say, three and a half years, we started to look heavily into Israeli startup technology in order to see what is the best way for us to implement technology on top of the supply chains of our customers. And we'll elaborate more later.
So you know quite a bit about supply chain, we must say.
Enough.
And I know that a lot of the Israeli startups and the Israelis that are on this call as well probably know you well and have been in interaction with you. So it's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
Another partner that is part of this event is Plug and Play, the Plug and Play Tech Center, who are connected to large corporates, to the world's best startups through industry-focused acceleration programs. And you will hear more about them later on. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Michal Siror, Director of Ecosystem Development at Startup Nation Central. Startup Nation Central is a non-profit organization that connects Israeli tech innovation and the world. We do it in three main ways. First, we have an elaborate mapping of the Israeli tech ecosystem, which is called Startup Nation Finder, completely free to use, completely free to be registered as well. This is an online discovery platform which maps all the innovative Israeli tech companies, all the investors with a portfolio company in Israel, multinationals that are active here, and all the commercialized tech in Israel via academia. So if you're a startup, please make sure you have a profile on Finder and that it's up to date. And if you're an international corporate or an investor, feel free to browse through Finder, ask for introductions through the platform, or later on, just tell us that you want more connections. At Startup Nation Central, we also host Global 1000 corporates here in Israel. We also conduct digital engagements with these corporates that want to further understand how to engage with this Israeli innovation. Lastly, events such as these are part of our work at Startup Nation Central, exposing our innovators to interesting speakers like we have lined up today, and connecting between the various stakeholders. And we'll be doing a lot more of this connecting later on today. And if you're wondering, this event is completely live, so we're actually sitting here at Startup Nation Central, all of us here together, and it's fantastic to be able to meet each other after all this time. So a little bit about our agenda. First of all, we have Luca Graf, the author of Disruptive Logistics, who is joining us from across the ocean. Then we have a discussion with Ido Kissos, the head of supply chain transformation at Boxy Charm. Livia Toth from Plug and Play Ventures in Hamburg will be joining us as well. And then we'll be exposing the Israeli supply chain logistics landscape map. And what you see now on your screen is what we call our blind map. And it will be filled out with all the various companies that have made it to the map just in a little while. Then finally, we'll close with the breakout rooms, which will be, this is a live breakout room with our investors, an open mic discussion. Eran Westman, a growth investor from Viola Growth, will be leading the last mile and fleet management discussion. Lotan Levkovich, general partner from Grove Ventures, will be leading the warehouse and packaging table. And Sivan Shamri Dahan, managing partner at Kumra Capital, will be leading the discussion in monitoring and forecasting. And if you're interested in digital processing, our very own Yariv Lotan will be leading that table. You'll meet Yariv shortly. So, Ophir, in our experience over the last year, smart supply chain has been one of the most sought after topics from our clients. We call them clients, but they don't pay. But this has really been an area of interest for them. How do you see this topic?
So when having such a massive disruption by moving from traditional industries into this fast-moving world, and in order to close all the gaps in the supply chains and on top of them, we need to implement technologies in and on these supply chains. That's it from me. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And we actually asked the next speaker to join us, who's Luca Graf. Luca, can you hear us?
Yes, I do hear you. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Luca, and welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I know you're on a day off and you're on holiday, but still making the time to talk about supply chain even in your time off. That's wonderful. So thank you and welcome. So Luca is the co-editor of the book Disrupting Logistics. He is also the head of digital innovation at DSV Panalpina, heading the DSV Innovation Hub, which is a competency center dedicated to digital innovation in the field of forwarding and logistics. Before he joined the logistics industry, Luca was responsible for revenue-wise the largest online shop of Switzerland, which is called Swiss.com, and also the digital platform development of 3 major European airlines, Lufthansa, Austrian, and Swiss. So Luca, welcome, and congratulations on publishing your book. And I personally never thought about supply chain, that supply chain can be such an easy read. So thank you for that, for helping me understand that. So if you could tell us a little bit about the book and what brought you to write such an extensive overview on this topic.
Sure, and then thank you very much again for the very warm welcome. Yes, so this book, it's a collective book contribution of 26 co-authors describing in 21 articles the digital transformation of the supply chain and logistics industry. So it's a book written, what we always say, by practitioners, for practitioners driving the change in this industry. And we have involved many prominent startup founders developing new solutions, developing new business models, also from Israel. And let's say key content about this book is number one, what are the driving forces of digital disruption in the logistics industry, such as automation and supply chain visibility and transparency into pricing and so on. Then the second part of the book is about the solutions and the business models disrupting the existing logistics solutions. So it gives a whole overview for all the areas, different areas of logistics, from last mile logistics to warehouse automation to e-commerce logistics to forwarding, digital forwarding, etc. So it presents all the solutions which have been developed and inspires and gives ideas about what is happening currently in the logistics industry. And last but not least, we are presenting, let's say, the key players behind the disruptions. So with that, we mean, of course, the startups and scale-ups and tech innovators. We talk about incumbents, the existing carriers and forwarders and other actors in the logistics industry embracing and making use of digitization, and then of course investors investing strongly into that industry, which at the end is if I'm not wrong, the third largest industry in the world. So a lot of potential here also to further improve with digitization.
I can see that the audience can't hear you. I'm just checking now to see with the sound. So just if the audience can indicate if you can hear me on the Zoom call.
I do hear you. Do you hear me?
Okay, great. So they can hear me, but they can't hear you. We might just give it another go and test it there. So Luca, just on the point on the most prominent early adapters of smart logistics in terms of countries or specific multinational companies. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about who these early adapters are and some of the amazing use cases you discovered during the writing of this book?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as for many industries, let's say what we call the log tech wave started in well-known tech ecosystems, such in the US, also in Israel, and in several countries within Europe. What we see also that, and even more recently, that many innovations are coming actually also from other countries, more from Asia. Still not hearing the other ones. Okay. Do you hear me still?
We'll just stop for a moment this conversation. We'll move to our next panel discussion, and then afterwards we'll come back to you.
All right.
Okay, so we'll be with you in a moment.
Hi everyone. Today we have a great opportunity to interview Ido Kissos from Boxy Charm. Boxy Charm is part of BFA Industries, a $1 billion company, which I'm not sure why, but not enough Israelis are familiar with. So thank you for having here. So I'm happy to be with Yariv here by my side as well. So Yariv, can you please tell us a few words about yourself?
Certainly. So I had the scaling up of growth companies at Startup Nation Central, where we deal with helping build B2B scale up companies in different spaces, one of which is Industry 4 and logistics as part of it. Before that, I spent my time as an investment banker, as an investor in a CVC. So I come here seeing sort of the corporate side as well as the financial side.
Thank you. And Ido, can you please tell us about yourself?
Sure, Fair. Thank you for having me in this panel. My name is Ido. My background is technological, software engineering and operations research. I started my career in the Israeli military technological units. And then since then, I've been in several startups, mostly here in Israel. Nowadays, I lead supply chain transformation for Boxy Charm. That is about streamlining the entire operations of the company by making it digital first. And here in Israel, we have a team that builds this digital infrastructure to make it more efficient for the company.
Amazing. Can you tell a little bit more about Boxy Charm globally?
Sure, I'm happy to. I'll present a few slides for that. Please. So, in a nutshell, Boxy Charm is the biggest beauty. Next slide, please. So Boxy Charm is the largest full-size beauty box business in the world. We're talking about over 1.2 million subscribers and 400 million revenues. So on the customer side, we're connecting engaged customers that are interested in cosmetics with brands that provide us their product, and we're building beauty box. So as you can see on the screen, on the upper side of the screen, the black box is the box in which the customer gets the products. And we have 5 full-size products, and these 5 products are changing on a monthly basis. We were recently acquired by BFA, now creating the largest beauty brand, subscription beauty brand in the US, with over 4 million customers and $1 billion revenue. So the supply chain is becoming quite interesting for the company. I'll present just on the customer flow for you to understand the business. So the customer goes on the website. It's an e-commerce website. Fills out. It's typically a female customer, so she fills out her beauty preferences, and that subscription renews on a monthly cadence. That generates an order that goes to the warehouse, and the warehouse curates a box for that customer for these preferences, and that box is delivered to the customer's house. So making that happen on a monthly cadence with the fewest issues as possible in that scale is as challenging. So I'll present in the next slide what is the infrastructure, what is the supply chain looks like. So we're seeing supply chain, everything happens in-house from the merchandise, that is the planning side and also the fulfillment side. So getting the box delivered to the customer, including the last mile delivery. So this process starts from the sourcing, buying the products for the company. It's over 10 million products that we source from well-known brands. And we assort them into different programs, different kits. So this is the decision about which product goes in which kit. And then we start manufacturing this kit in the warehouse. There's a step of allocating them. So it's finding the best matching inventory to the customer, so the best kit available for that customer to optimize the overall satisfaction. And once this matching is made, we fulfill that order within the warehouse and we ship that to the customer. So this is the scope of supply chain as we see it in Boxy Charm.
So we can see here a kind of a massive supply chain you are handling with. So can you share with us maybe a few of the challenges in your supply chain, the key ones?
Sure thing. So maybe I'll start on the business side of things. So inevitably, the supply chain is mainly a cost center for the company. And as such, it's about reducing the cost, reducing workload for the operating force that we have. It's reducing the cost of goods, having better utilization of the inventory. So we start by cost, we go to throughput. So how with the existing operating teams and infrastructure, physical infrastructure, are we able to produce more, so manufacture more within that time so that the customer gets that in a more timely manner. So it's a matter of speed. And the last one is about predictability. So anticipating the supply chain in advance is a key component so that we're able to prepare ourselves in order to handle these issues upfront and not as they come. And by this, you produce a significant value for the company as the operating teams don't need to handle these issues as they occur, but they can do that in advance. And that also has significant cost benefit as correcting these issues is quite costly for the company. I'll share maybe one of the technical challenges, because once we have these business challenges, we go into the implementing their solutions. An example of that is the entire transformation is about modeling this supply chain, this complex process, into software. So that is, sorry for that. That is taking a process that was once manual, and that was about transferring spreadsheets from one place to another, having people making these manual corrections within these documents, making it digital first, that is led by the machine, producing a software that takes control over that process. And there is an involvement of a human expertise in the process, but it is mainly driven by the machine. And then taking one process after another and implementing that logic within the software.
So tell me, can you share with us maybe some challenges that you want to solve, you haven't solved yet within the supply chain logistics?
Sure thing. We have a few of them. We can start by scheduling. So scheduling production, knowing what products need to arrive at what time, and to build these, to build it so we have it ready on time. What needs to be prioritized over something else in order to increase that throughput. That is an example. Another scheduling is the distribution of the kits, of the parcels, of the pallets. So once we have all the orders, we're talking about over 1 million orders with it for a single day. We need to ship them into every state, every single place in the US and every region. Scheduling that to be so that the customer has the best experience in the SLA, so it arrives as early as possible, is a technical challenge in itself. We need to take many constraints into consideration. There is rate shopping, or could be called routing intelligence. It's taking all the orders. We have many carriers that we have contracts with, and we would like to take advantage of the cost structure with each of these carriers. And by that, having a mechanism in place that can route each order or batch of order to a different carrier to take advantage of that cost structure. And maybe lastly, I would say analytics. So while it seems basic, in the warehouse, we do not have a good understanding of what's happening on the production floor. So having a real-time analytics understanding of the production state would be important for us. Having said that, our warehouse, as you can imagine, is not fully automated. Robots, IoTs, we don't have them everywhere, and still this information is important for us, so we're looking for solutions in that space.
Great. Actually, and Yariv, tell me, how can a company like Boxy Charm can benefit from the Israeli ecosystem I mean, we saw a few challenges in the field of logistics, so can you share with us a few things that...
Yes, I think it's important to sort of note that as we've done our mapping, the supply chain cluster within the Israeli innovation ecosystem contains many, it's comprised of many dozens of very interesting and innovative companies. I think that when we look back, it's like, if we go back like 15 years ago, that were the first supply chain logistics companies started from in either WMS or wireless monitoring, companies like Made4Net or companies like CartaSense. But then since then, we see quite a few companies the last decade in that specific space that have become scale-up. So if you look at companies like Freightos, who deals with shipping shipping, sorry, and TruckNet, who does truck freight, and Tipa, biodegradable packaging, of course, and companies like Bring in micro-fulfillment of in on-demand logistics. I think that it's worth mentioning companies like Fabric and companies like Kaha Robotics, both deal with warehouse.
I'm sure they will be happy to talk with Ido later on.
Of course, and there will be now rooms, different breakout rooms. And obviously worth mentioning also Williot, who does the Bluetooth tags that are battery-less, like a very super innovative technology. And then there are, I think, dozens of other companies doing IoT, AI, and machine vision. All are comprised to offer specific solutions that could help BFA, Boxy Charm, and Ido solve their solutions and upgrade their operations. So I think that, in S&C, we work with multinationals year-long, and we try to come up with understanding the problems and then solving the solutions. And as we work also with Ido, we help them map and target the solutions, but also sort of do a shout out to the ecosystem and try to have companies come up with solutions. And I think Ido would agree with me that that Israel is sort of this unique hub where corporates like BFA and Boxy Charm can get really innovative attention to what they do in order to solve real life solutions.
So we've started, I think, in a good way, which everyone here familiar with now, with Boxy Charm and BFA, which is a good start. And Ido, you will meet everyone later on today. And I think maybe a nice angle, I'm not sure you mentioned it, it's that originally Boxy Charm is a company which is the founder is Israeli, right?
Right.
Can you say a few words about it as well, or?
Yes. So Joe, Yossi in Hebrew, Martin, he started his company 7 years ago. He found that it started really non-technological, and there was a crazy product market fit, and that grew very fast with time. So the company is based in Miami, Florida.
Still, even now after the
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right, and the company was acquired several months ago, and now it was merged with Ipsy, which was the main competitor, the leading of that industry. Yeah. And now we're creating BFA Industries, and Joe is the president of BFA Industries.
And are you targeting Israel as a market as well, or when you can see your boxes?
Unfortunately, that is not planned yet. We're here building the digital infrastructure. We are looking into new markets outside of the US. Currently, Israel is not on the list, but that may change.
If I can, Ido, can you share with us, for our audience, the startups mainly, about the solutions you look for in Israel? Or in general?
Yeah, so maybe I'll give an example of something that we've implemented internally to give a sense of the challenges that we're having. So one main process that we're having on a monthly basis is the allocation process, is matching the available inventory that we have with the orders from the customers that are pending fulfillment. And we need to do that in an optimal way. And obviously we have many constraints. Some of them are customer constraints. Some of them are operational constraints that we are unable to ship some products to some states, for example. And optimizing that requires having good understanding of modeling what is customer preferences about, and having the availability of the data that is accurate in the system. So the first step was about digitizing that process, so building a single data store that we have the information available there, and then building the algorithm that match the inventory with the customers' preferences and what they have received in the past. And not only this is the production system that we run, we also have a dry run for that, which we call the mock allocation, and that is about building digital twins. So anticipating in advance or simulating the entire information that we would have within a month or two, so that we're able to prepare and make adjustments to our operations, so that we have an optimal streamlined operations when the operation is the production one.
Very interesting thing that companies have a lot to work on.
Yeah, we'll see later on more about monitoring and forecasting, which is important for all the supply chains. So I think we are going back to Michal, and probably Luca is back with us again. Yeah, so back to you, Michal.
So thank you, Ophir, Yariv, Ido. That was a fascinating panel discussion, and it's always great to hear more multinational corporates that are looking at Israel for innovation, and good luck with your search, Ido. Luca is back with us again. Luca, can you hear me now?
Yes, I do hear you.
Fantastic, great. So welcome. I told you you should have come to Israel to do this panel discussion rather than do it over Zoom. So welcome again. So because our audience missed your answer, which was fantastic, I actually heard it, but they missed it. So I would love you to touch once again on what brought you to write such an extensive overview on the topic of supply chain and logistics. It took you quite a while too.
Yeah, so back to the book. It's actually a collective book contribution which has been written by 26 co-authors, describing in 21 articles the digital transformation of the supply chain and logistics industry. So it's a book written by what we say practitioners for practitioners, driving the change in this industry. And we have involved many prominent startup founders developing solutions for this industry of Israel. And yeah, I also hear a bit an echo. Now it's gone. Yeah, and content-wise, what you find in the book, so about the digital transformation in logistics and number one, the driving forces of digital disruption in the logistics industry, such as automation, asset utilization, transparency into pricing, supply chain visibility. So that's the first part of the book. The second part is about the solutions and the business models disrupting the existing solutions. So it gives a great overview about the different areas of the industry, from last mile logistics to e-commerce logistics, into warehouse automation, supply chain visibility solutions, any kind of SaaS solutions, how blockchain is used in the industry, into digital forwarding. So it gives an overview what is happening and portrays also the solutions which have been developed to inspire everyone who is interested in this industry. And most of that part has been written and described by startup founders. And the last part is about the key players behind the disruption. So of course, what we mean with the startups, the tech innovators, the incumbents, giving an answer to embracing, digitization and also trying to change their way of working. And they're developing new products. And last but not least, of course, investors. This is the third largest industry of the world, so it's also highly relevant and interesting to invest into that space, making it more efficient and more customer friendly by using technology. So this is all what the book is about, and I have it here in my hand proudly, and of course can recommend it to everyone interested into this industry.
And it's a good read, I think, even if you're not interested in the industry, because there are different shifts that are affecting each one of us in our lives, and in just trying to get things through supply chain, it affects the consumer, which is every single one of us. And in your book, you also had a few really interesting use cases of specific countries that were kind of early adapters of smart logistics. They did a few very innovative moves in terms of supply chain. Can you give us just a few examples there?
Yeah, of course. When it comes to the countries, we see that the log tech wave started in well-known tech ecosystems, such in the US, also in Israel, and in several countries within Europe. But what we also see, and this is a trend recently strengthening, that many of these innovations actually coming from Asia for this industry. So be it from Singapore, from China, and and interestingly, what we see that many developing countries are actually among the early adopters, embracing and making use of these new solutions and the technologies. And and with that, they develop their infrastructure, like in what we see in Rwanda, where they now provide vaccine or blood samples or medicine to the population. We see that last mile logistics is revolutionizing Indonesia and China and also Colombia. And by that, leapfrogging actually one generation of products which we maybe still have in established economies and countries, and they are going with the technology actually to the next generation.
And I think that's very interesting, because a lot of these countries are probably not on the target list for a lot of the Israeli startups on this call. So it's interesting opening that up and understanding that there are markets where sometimes startups wouldn't think to go. Usually Israeli startups go to the US, and suddenly you're outlining countries that were probably not even thought of as a potential market. Speaking of Israeli startups, Israeli startups are really good at tech. They're sometimes not as good as far as the design goes. And in your book, you mentioned the importance of good design. Now, as a user interface, it's quite obvious to us that it's very important for your consumer. But you also mentioned the staff along the supply chain, the warehouse workers, the factory staff, the delivery personnel. Can you say a few words about that, about the importance of product design in terms of supply chain?
Yeah, as you already also said, a good user experience and customer experience is key to success for every product. So this is valid, I mean, both for the B2C world, but it's also very valid for the B2B world. Of course, many, let's say, many focus on improving the user experience started in the B2C world, and it's now swapping over into the B2B world. And that doesn't surprise, because things which you as a consumer experience with online retailers, so buying maybe with Amazon, or booking hotel rooms with Airbnb or Booking.com, or doing online banking with these banking disruptors like N26 or Revolut, I mean, or messaging services, Facebook, WhatsApp, WeChat. This is all what you experience in your private consumer life, and this is something, of course, you would like now also to have into your B2B experience. So so I can just underline, digital products must be convenient at all. So they must be easy to use. Yeah, they should give you transparency, and they should give the user empowerment and control. And and maybe you can measure that all along also with the conversion rate that you would measure things in online retailing. Yeah, so does the user find its way? Can he conclude his action in only a few steps? So I think that's also very crucial and important in developing B2B products.
I completely agree. And at Startup Nation Central, we do put a focus on that connection between technology and the design. It's very important. I see that we're running out of time, but they are allowing me one last question. In your book, you refer a number of times to the trend of green logistics, how supply chain architects need to address transparency of the chain. For example, reporting on carbon footprint, also helping, for example, fair trade products, where consumers want to know the origin of their product. In our landscape map, for example, of the companies, we've actually added a little indicator that talks about sustainability. So in your eyes, are we going to see an increase in demand for what you've termed as green logistics? Is this something that corporates are going to want more and more? How do you see this aspect of logistics?
Yeah, definitely. This is a large and growing trend, and I want to encourage everyone who's thinking about developing new solutions, really to work on that biggest challenge and counteract climate change and cope with what we can do with technology. I'm sure that many innovations and products can be developed using great technology, and that startups can help us tremendously in overcoming this challenge. So to give you a hint, this is definitely a need for forwarders, for shippers in this industry, and we hear that more and more. And to give you a hint, what could it be, and what you can invent? So I think there's still a lot we need to improve when it comes to tracking and reporting about carbon footprint and emissions, to increase the visibility into the emissions, and also to, of course, understand provenance of goods along the supply chain. And our industry is still very inefficient, and by improving the efficiency with many different solutions, we are also able then to improve the carbon footprint and reduce waste. And the third element is around maybe alternative fuels. So to power, of course, transportation, we continue to need to transport, but we need to power things alternatively, be it with hydrogen, electric, biofuel, so many other ideas. And last but not least, what of course also is an interesting aspect is the circular economy. So supply chain can also change. It can change the way we produce and we reuse things. And around that, we can also develop a completely new ecosystem. And here also technology can help a lot and improve, and find new solutions in that area.
I love that idea that supply chain and just planning your supply chain properly can actually help create a full circle of innovation, and that's amazing. And last thing, you mentioned a few Israeli startups in your book, Luca. Do you mind just mentioning a few of them that you found impressive? What was different about these startups that you thought that merited putting them in the book?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I'm always impressed by the density of tech companies, and you can find in Israel so many great innovations coming out of your country, and the ecosystem is very eager to develop great new solutions. And when it comes to the logistics industry, I find many promising solutions from different areas. So looking into last mile, we already heard before. I mean, Brink is a very well-known startup. When you look into warehouse automation, Bionic Hive is someone I recognize. I mean, just recently, I mean, they've become very popular in the web with the new robot, which is able to climb on a rack and pick parcels. Then supply chain visibility, which is a huge area, also still a big point of industry. I know many prominent startups from Israel like Windward or Shipit or Williot. If you look further into predictive maintenance, which is also related to supply chain management, we of course know Aguri and mentioned that. And then someone who has also written a chapter, or actually two chapters in our book, is Freightos. So both Sui Schreiber and Eitan Buchmann have contributed to that book, and describing in how digital platforms are changing the industry, and also the need of more transparency into pricing is coming from the consumers. But additionally, about digital processing, AI Docs, Stargo, WaveBL, now also being very famous with having introduced the electronic blockchain-based bill of lading for MSC, Stargo, and last but not least, when it comes to autonomous vehicles, which are also described in the book, of course, Flytrex is a prominent example, in addition to, of course, Mobileye and Move It, more known from the people side, but this will also strongly influence way of how trucks will move in future, and not only drones, but also trucks.
Luca, you obviously know quite well the Israeli startup ecosystem, so and thank you for that, both for taking your time. Congratulations on a very good book and an easy read, and thank you for joining us today, and obviously enjoy your holidays, and for making the time. We're moving on straight away. Thank you. We're moving on straight away to Livia Toth, Venture Director at Plug and Play Hamburg. Livia, can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon, I can hear you.
Good afternoon, Livia. So Plug and Play have partnered in this event with Startup Nation Central and DSV, as smart logistics is a key sector of interest for most of their clients internationally. Plug and Play is an international organization, maybe less familiar to the Israeli ecosystem, so we're happy to have Livia with us to tell us more about Plug and Play, a little bit about the investment trends in the sector and the challenges and opportunities 2021 has created for this sector, which are huge. So Livia, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Michal. First of all, if I share my slides, you won't be able to see me, so that's why I just quickly introduce myself. My name is Livia Toth, and I am in charge of supply chain logistics related investments in Europe for Plug and Play Ventures. I am based out of Germany, Hamburg, and I'm really much looking forward to be here with you today, as the Israeli startup ecosystem really is close to my heart, and I will tell you later why. So before we dive into some of the supply chain trends and investment trends for 2021, I would love to give you an introduction to Plug and Play and our activities. And with that, I will share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen? Michal, can you see my screen? I can't hear you.
Your screen.
Yeah, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
You can see the slides, right?
Okay. You need to put it in full screen.
Okay. Now you see it, right?
Yes, that's fantastic.
Perfect, thank you. Now you should see it completely on full screen. What is Plug and Play about? We have basically three main activities. First and foremost, we are a venture capital investor. We are investing in early stage companies from seed stage to Series A and Series B stages. We've been very lucky as we started investing in tech companies right before the dot-com bubble. And that's how we actually got the chance to be one of the first backers of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founders, also PayPal, Danger, that was the first startup of Andy Rubin, the founder of Android, also Logitech. And to date, we have a few companies in our portfolio that reach now the unicorn status, meaning that they are now valued at more than $1 billion. And currently we have more than 1,700 startups in our portfolio all around the world and also in several very diverse industry sectors. So besides investing in tech companies, we are also operating so-called corporate innovation platforms. And what does that mean? We are working closely with more than 500 industry-leading enterprises across around 17 industries, including supply chain and logistics. And we help them supercharge innovation activities, mostly by connecting them to top-notch startups, tech companies. And what we do is that we foster innovation activities by letting them work on proof of concepts and validate the technologies of startups. And that actually brings me to our third activity, that is functioning as a business development accelerator platform for tech companies, for startups. And what makes us unique and what differentiates us from other accelerator programs is that we are basically completely equity free, meaning that we don't take any fee and any equity from the startups for involving them in our programs. And the basic and most important value what we provide to these companies is providing them proof of concept opportunities, business development opportunities. We help them find their first paying customers. We help them find the market where their technology can be applicable in the market. And then on the right bottom part of the slide, you can see our global footprint. So our headquarters is in Silicon Valley, but we have more than 35 offices worldwide to date, all around the world, in the US, in South America, in Africa, in Europe, in China, in Singapore. And with the yellow color, you can see the supply chain offices highlighted. One of our very prominent offices in Northwest Arkansas, that might not sound for you like the cradle of the venture capital space, but there is a very important supply chain player called Walmart, and we are also helping them with innovation. And then we also have a supply chain office in Hamburg, working mainly with third-party logistics providers and energy companies. Also, one of our most important partners in Hamburg and in Europe is DSV, working very closely with Luca also. And we are also present in Singapore and Shanghai with our supply chain activities. So as I mentioned, we are accelerating startups and helping corporations with innovation and finding new business models, new revenue strategies across very, very diverse verticals, starting from brand and retail, IoT, manufacturing, food, supply chain, real estate, B2B distribution, energy and sustainability. Actually, we don't have one of our latest verticals on this slide that we just launched last week, and that is our maritime vertical in Antwerp, Belgium. And here you can see some of our partners in the supply chain sector. As you can see, it's super diverse, and we are focusing on energy supply chain or chemical supply chain, automotive, manufacturing, trucking, rail, warehousing, third-party logistics providers, postal services, electronics. And we are working with these companies on really finding the right niche technologies for them, what they can implement in-house, and work together with the startups on those topics. Yes, and then the next topic that I wanted to talk about is some of our investments in the supply chain sector from 2020. As you can see, some of the trending topics that was really crucial for us in 2020 was demand forecasting, inventory management, route optimization, pricing search engine, also a little bit of blockchain and track and trace via blockchain, and also robotics. So we also invested in a startup that provides a platform for robotic solution design. As for the geographies, mostly we invest in the US and Europe, but this time in 2020 we also looked into South America and Africa for investments. Yes, and the next what I would like to highlight is some of our investments in Israeli companies. So this is really just a snapshot, and we have more than that. So here you can see a few companies that we invested in from Israel, like Netera, the vital signs sensing startup, then Autopia that is working on a teleoperation platform, Nemo Data that is a fleet maintenance software platform, Breezometer, the air quality software, and then Guardnox, that is a cybersecurity company. And here I would like to stop a bit and just tell you my personal experience with the Israeli founders. So as an investor, it's very important for you that the team that you invest in has a very good business sense, and that they are also very proficient and very good at the domain, the engineering domain, where they have their product developed in. And Israeli founders have one unique feature that they are, in one person, great business people. They are very good at attracting and engaging with customers, and on the other hand, they are also very good engineers, having very good expertise in the domain knowledge that that they are active in. So that's why I'm a little bit biased, usually towards Israeli founders, because that's something where we are never disappointed when we are introducing them to our partners for proof of concepts. Okay, so now a little bit about the supply chain tech funding in 2020. So of course we have to address the elephant in the room, that we had a little bit of a abstraction from a normal year last year, and that was of course slightly reflected in the number of deals and in the tech funding, also in the supply chain space. But I wouldn't say that the supply chain sector suffered that much. Quite the opposite. Venture capital investors funneled around $13 billion into supply chain companies in the US and in Europe, and that was actually manifested within 555 deals. If you look into the deal volume and the total funding that was deployed into startups, into supply chain startups, and we look into look at the geographical description of it, then you can see that when it comes to the number of deals, the number of investments made, it's equally divided, somewhat equally divided between Europe, Asia, and North America. Still, the US leading the line, and Asia is also coming to the top. When it comes to the total funding amounts deployed into startups, that you can see that Asia is really on the top of the scale. If you look at if you compare it with Europe, for example, then you can see that Asia invested 6 times more in total into startups in 2020.
So, Livia, I apologize, but we are running out of time. So if there's one last key message that you'd like to bring forward, this would probably be the time.
Okay, so then let me go to maybe to the some of the factors that or opportunities that we see and that actually change the whole spectrum and are asking for new technologies. So because of the pandemic, we have new opportunities on the horizon, and that is coming from more localized production, so that manufacturers realize that manufacturing in place and not only outsourcing it is super important. Then there was also an e-commerce boom, meaning that also those consumers that were used to shopping physically in the stores, they are now shopping online. And then if we look at the transportation and the delivery of goods, rail and road transportation was put into foreground compared to ocean and air, especially for products that are not that time sensitive. Of course, automation and robotics is now even more important because of eliminating human touch and making it more hygienic and also faster. And of course, new regulations for the work environment also called for new products and services. Maybe also just mention a few topics.
Sorry, I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but we really need to move on. So we're happy to share the presentation if you want with our audience. And show them all of this. So first of all, thank you both for those interesting insights. And I would like to remind you that you promised a follow-up meeting as well to hear more of the companies that are here in Israel. And also please stay for our roundtable discussions on our Zoom platform, which is going to happen just in a few minutes. So I'll be happy to be there. I'm sure there's a lot of startups that would like to ask you a few questions and also to interact.
Yeah, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to talk. So if you are a startup, I would be happy to get in touch and tell you more. Thank you very much. I hope you're ready, Livia, for all the influx of LinkedIn connections. So now we're ready for the moment you've all been waiting for, the supply chain landscape map. So I'd like to introduce my dear colleague and friend, Yuval Engelstein, Industry 4.0 and automotive sector analyst, who is ready with Ophir on the other stage, which is just across from me, to do the unveiling. Yuval and Ophir, stage is yours.
Thanks, Michal. And hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here and share with you the map we've worked on for the last few months with Ophir from DSV. In this section, I want you to have a better sense about the logic behind the map and our work process. So, Ophir, would you like to guide us through the map?
Thank you very much, Yuval. Thank you, everyone, again. So, I'm very excited for this step. First of all, everyone can see the map now. It's a great map, as Yuval mentioned, we worked on in the last 4 months. And it's amazing to see this great development of the ecosystem here of Israel. So we've screened 150 Israeli smart logistics startups, and we end with 48 in 7 different categories. So I would like to, first of all, it's important to say that the map is interactive and you can press almost on anything in this map. I would like to start with the sustainability leaf, which is in continuous to what Michal and other panel discussed earlier today. So the sustainability leaf, it's something that we've decided to add for few companies. At the moment, it's only the beginning, but it's about based on personal assessment of the companies. Later on, we would like to do it as categories of the UN, SDG, and ESG that we would like to mark the startups or in general the technology here in the map. So we've chose, as I mentioned earlier, 7 categories. The first one that we started with is warehousing. We've tried to cover all the supply chains from the warehouse up to the end customer. So I will start with warehousing. In every section you can press on the information button, and then you can have all the detailed information about what the specific category is about. So warehousing historically is just to warehouse stuff. But we are looking also on automation in the field of warehousing, and everything is related to that. Smart tags and the best way to monitor things in the warehouse, and by that to have a better way to forecast our inventory. Then we are going to packaging. Packaging is a hot topic, a new hot topic here, and we're working in the field of food and beverages and also the pharma. Here you can see a coordinated system of preparing goods to the for safe and efficiency movement. It's super critical for us if we would like to take, let's say, a vaccine, as we are familiar with, and we want to ship it from country in the US in specific temperature in the supply chain and move it up to Israel. We need to make sure that the packing is good enough and efficient enough. Then we go to the fleet management. I can press here as well. And fleet is how to actually manage our fleet to make sure that the fleet is efficient and we have enough knowledge and to make sure where are trucks or cars at the moment, what is the best way to forecast the timeline and when we will get to the POD. And then, of course, in the end of the supply chain, if we would like to monitor and to discuss KPIs in supply chain, we need to make sure we have all the data in order to do so. The next one that I'll go to is monitoring and forecasting. And for me, it's an amazing category because if we look, let's say, 2 years ago, we will call this topic IoT. And IoT is something which is good, and it's not a mistake to say so. But if we like to deep divers and diver, so we would like to monitor each and every part of the supply chain, and then to be able to forecast, same as in the warehouses and the fleet management. I will go quickly to the digital processing. We originally called it administration, but we've changed it to digital processing because in the end of the day, it's our back end of the supply chain. It's digital processes we all need as a freight forwarders and as shippers. And The last one is last mile delivery. We're all well familiar with last mile. During the COVID, we all saw the importance of the last mile, and we all want to get our shoes or food by 15 or 3 hours max. It's all covered by cybersecurity, which is also new in the field of supply chain. And I will run a little bit more faster in order to make time for Yuval to talk about the flow and the process we did here. I just want to say again that you can click about everything and get directly to the finder of the specific company to get more information about it. That's the reason it's important to add yourself as a company to the finder. And you have, of course, here the button that sends you directly. You can get more information about SNC and the companies. And to you, Yuval, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Regarding the process creating such a map, it's basically a funnel process. So we started with more than 200 companies, which we suspected that might fit to the map. And then we narrowed the list down according to the pre-defined categories. So the company has to have a logo. It has to have an active English website or marketing materials in English. The company has an Israeli company number, Het Pay. One of the founders is Israeli, or their R&D center is located inside Israel. It has to be a growth stage company. So it's usually between seed and C. But also bootstrapped companies if the company seems stable. The company has to complete or currently undergoing a POC or a pilot. The company has foreign partners such as clients, investors, distributors, participate in an acceleration program, and etc. Global competitive and relative advantage, also something that's important for us. And the most important thing that you probably also, Ophir mentioned it right now and Michal in the beginning, you must to be on our Finder platform. And so as you can tell, some of the categories are basic, others are more specific. So if you are qualified and you don't see yourself on the map and you are qualified, there's a good chance you are not tagged appropriately. So in that case, I suggest you take ownership of your profile on Finder by claiming it. Second, to find more companies, we sent an application form about 2 months ago. So you need to be aware of our emails and fill the forms when we ask. Third, don't worry. We update the map occasionally, so you can always be on the next version. And lastly, among the different things that I do, I'm also in charge of knowing all the startups in the sectors I cover. So if we don't know each other yet, please contact me. It is the best way for you to benefit from our activities, such as this map and other activities as well.
Yuval, thank you very much. Thank you very much
You're
for that.
welcome.
And we'll be sharing Yuval's email address as well. So if you're a startup and in the sector or you want him to get to know you, please do so. And also, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank some of our team members that were part of this deep process. Maor Perlo from our data team, Omer Maron, our community coordinator, and behind this production, Inor Grisari, Ofir Zelikovic, Elet Schwartz, Omer Tal, and Yael Raviv. A big thank you to our speakers, Luca Graf, Ido Kissos, Livia Toth, Yariv, and Yuval. And we really want to get going and open up our breakout rooms. And as I said, please give yourself a shout out if you're on the map. And we have, as I said, 4 different topics in our room. So we have Eran Westman, the growth investor from Viola Growth, will be leading last mile and fleet management. Lotan Levkovich, general partner, Grow Ventures, warehouse and packaging. And Sivan Shamri Dahan, managing partner at Kumra Capital, who'll be leading monitoring and forecasting. And digital processing with Yariv Lotan, who you met just before. So see you all back here right after the tables are closed. So please choose your tables now. So if you haven't chosen a breakout table yet, so just go below to the tab breakout room and choose the room that you'd like to join. As I mentioned, each table is led by a different investor. You're welcome to choose it either by the investor or by the topic that is discussed. If you have any questions, they'll be answering those questions. So make sure to choose, and you can obviously swap between the rooms once you've joined. This is a 30-minute roundtable discussion, and afterwards we'll be coming back here. So great opportunity to meet investors, interesting startups, some of them that are on the map. Please do so now. If you have any technical issues, then just let us know in the chat, either writing to Startup Nation Central or to myself. So we have a few more people in the main room. In case you missed it, please choose a roundtable discussion to join. A great opportunity to meet some global corporates who are with us today, investors, and also startups that are with us. So I see a few of you are still lingering around here in the main hall. You're welcome to join the roundtable discussions. You see on the screen the names of the roundtables. You can choose which one you'd like to join, and or if you'd like us to move you there, let us know and we can move you into that roundtable discussion if you're having technical difficulties. Everybody, we hope you had a fruitful discussion. And obviously, if you're a global corporate and you'd like an introduction to any one of the startups that you've met here or that are on the map, So please just answer this poll that we'll be pulling up, and we will help you with following up. You're also welcome to press on the request an intro button on Finder with any of the Israeli investors or companies that you've met here. So once again, thank you very much for joining us. We will keep the chat open for anybody that wants to put up their email, their LinkedIn, you want people to connect to you. So we will leave our Zoom line open. And anyone that wants to add any comments, it's been a pleasure having you. We're extremely excited, and you're all also have the link to the map. Good afternoon from Tel Aviv. Thank you, Ophir, for a wonderful journey. And we hope you all enjoy the map as well.